42 seconds. That's the average time Jesus spends in conversation in the Gospels. 42 seconds of hope, purpose, grace, value, belonging. 42 seconds that might reformat your identity, reshape your calling, restore your heart. 42 seconds that will likely change your life, all in the time it takes to make an espresso. And yet so often we say, just a minute, wait a minute, it's only a minute. What if we're dismissing seconds that might otherwise contain hope, purpose, grace, value, belonging? What if we could learn the significance of 42?
Mark chapter 10 and verse 35. If you've got your app, you can read it in the Bible there, or if you've got a physical Bible with you, or you can just read along with us on the screens. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came forward to him and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." And he said to them, "What is it you want me to do for you?" And they said to him, "Grant us to sit, one at your right hand and one at your left in your glory." But Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Are you able to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with?" They replied, "We are able." Then Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or my left is not mine to grant, but it is for those for whom it has been prepared." James and John, the sons of Zebedee. I think if you were a teacher, these would be the kids in the class that you knew their parents really well. The sons of Zebedee. And these sons of Zebedee come to Jesus, and here is a question. "Hey, Jesus, we're going to ask you a question. Whatever we ask, you're going to do it." Like, is this a question or a hostage situation? It's kind of not clear. And then they throw out this question. "Here's what we'd like. When you're in your glory, I'd like to be your right-hand guy, and he'd like to be your left-hand guy." So just a little question then, Jesus. Just a small something that we thought we wanted to throw at you. No, actually, Jesus, when you are glorified, when everybody sees you in the prime point of you being the Savior of the world, we'd like to be in the photograph. We'd like to be the one that people go, "And who are those people with them?" We want to be there. To which Jesus says, "Well, I don't really think you know what you're on about," which is a very classic Jesus line to his disciples. Basically, Jesus spent 3 years with his disciples, most of the time saying to them, "I don't really think you get what you're on about." Because this story is loaded with irony. You see, because if you read Mark's gospel to the end, you see Jesus in his moment of glory. And in his moment of glory, he does have a person to his right and a person to his left. The problem for the disciples is he's on the cross. And Jesus is on the cross with a rebel on one side and a rebel on the other side. And these people are there. These unmentionables at some level are there. So the disciples come to Jesus and go, "Jesus, when it all comes together, we want to be there." And Jesus says, "Actually, I don't think you're able to do that." Fascinating moment of insight into these disciples, James and John. "What do you want me to do for you?" And they said, "We want position, Jesus. We want power. We want possession. We want the stuff. We want people to look at us and say, 'Wow, look at what they've got.' We want people to see that we've got it all together. We want to be the people. Sure, you're going to be the person in glory, but we want to be number 2 and number 3. We want to be there in that particular moment." A disciple of Jesus can get it wrong sometimes. Do you notice this? A disciple of Jesus can get a moment with Jesus and ask for the wrong things. If you turn over your page or scroll down further on your screen, literally a few verses later, this story happens. They came to Jericho. As he and his disciples and a large crowd were leaving Jericho, Bartimaeus, son of Timaeus, a blind beggar, was sitting by the roadside. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout out and say, "Jesus, son of David, have mercy on me." Many sternly ordered him to be quiet, but he cried out even more loudly, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stood still and said, "Call him here." They called the blind man and said to him, "Take heart, get up, he is calling you." So throwing off his cloak, he sprang up and came to Jesus. And then Jesus said to him, "What do you want me to do for you?" Do you recognize the question? What do you want me to do for you? The blind man said to him, "My teacher, let me see again." Jesus said to him, "Go, your faith has made you well." And immediately he regained his sight and followed him on the way. Two stories right next to each other of two followers of Jesus. Some that have been following Jesus for quite some time. One at the moment in which he comes to follow Jesus. But two stories that fluctuate around a question. The rabbis, the teachers, as they were known in those days, were great at questions. Rabbis loved questions. They would ask questions and want you to ask questions back to them. Rabbis felt that questions were how you really got to the root of a person's life. Questions were what got you into a person's soul. So good questions were important. And if you ever read anything by the rabbis, you'll notice it's just question after question after question. In fact, the Jewish joke from that time says you go to a rabbi and you say to him, "Why do you rabbis ask so many questions?" To which the rabbi will respond, "And what is wrong with the question?" Questions are powerful, powerful things. If you ask a real question, that is. And by a real question, I mean not just a sentence with a question mark at the end of it. Sometimes we make statements in a particular tone that makes people think it's a question, but really we're just trying to say something. We're trying to tell people, have you ever been asked a question and you know it's not really multiple choice? There is an answer that is wanted from me here. It's not like, hey, what do you think? But I'm not really asking, what do you think? I'm asking you to validate what I think. Have you ever been in one of those sort of conversations? Or somebody perhaps is talking to you and they've asked you a question and you are talking now in answer to the question, but they have this sort of glazed look over their face where you realize you're not listening to me anymore. Is that just me? I had this immensely humble moment once in my life where I asked somebody else for directions when I was lost. Hugely humble moment from me to have to admit that I didn't know the way. And I wound the window down in my car and I pulled over next to this man and I said, "Hey, I'm lost. Can you help me find this particular place?" And I asked him the question. It was me that needed the question. He didn't appear to be just stood at the side of the road waiting for someone to ask this question, but here was I asking him. And he started to talk. And I realized halfway through his answer, I wasn't listening to him. It was me that had asked him for directions, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about other things. I was thinking about what am I going to do when I get there? And I realized, goodness, I've pulled this man over, asked him for directions, and I don't even have the common courtesy to listen when it's me that needs the help. I'm sure nobody else is like that here, but that's my journey of sometimes struggling to listen. I ask a question, and I don't really hang around to listen to the answer. Or I ask a question that I already know the answer to, and I'm just testing you to see if you're right. We ask strange questions of one another. Have you noticed this? We say, like I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Maybe I've heard the question a lot. People go to pregnant ladies and they say to them, "What do you want?" Like I think there's only two choices, right? And I don't think you get any control over it. I think you basically get what you get, and I don't think there's anything you can do. But we ask them, "Hey, what do you want?" Don't ever answer that question. Right? You go, "Hey, we'd really like a girl," right? And then the boy comes out, and then one day you meet that boy and go, "Did you know your dad really wanted a girl?" Which is just really life affirming, Or one day you're looking at your girl thinking, "Why'd she join the military?" It's because you told everybody you wanted a boy. Sometimes parents answer that question. That really confuses me. "Oh yeah, we think we're having a girl." It's a guess, okay? It's always a guess. You don't know. It's a 1 in 2 chance that you're going to get it right. And if you get it right, you feel like a genius. Spend the rest of your life with fortune teller and profit written on the side of your business card. I don't know. But sometimes I think questions come with a lot of assumption to them, a lot of ideas connected to them. And this story here fascinates me. Jesus says to Bartimaeus, "What do you want?" Like, come on, Jesus, isn't it obvious? We might say when we read this story. We might go, well, clearly it's obvious. This seems like a bizarre. You're Jesus. Why are you asking the blind beggar what he wants? Which might be how we would deal with this story. We might just make an assumption that we know what the blind man wants. We might know what he is looking for. We might know, and we don't need to ask him. And that, to me, seems to be how we live our lives all the time. Making assumptions about what's best for everybody else. And here, Jesus, Son of God, meets a blind beggar on the street and asks the question, what do you want? I'm not going to make an assumption about you, Bartimaeus. I'm not going to force my way on your way. I'm asking you. And Jesus hangs around to listen. What do you want, Bartimaeus? I think that's a really scary question, by the way. What do you want? It's always good to put ourselves into a Bible story. Just immerse yourself in the story for a little minute. Who are you in this story? What role are you playing? But in this particular moment, is there a scarier question that you could be asked? The Bible's full of really scary moments where you think, oh my goodness, that would be a tough moment. That would be a difficult moment. But just for a moment, imagine you're there, eyeball to eyeball with the Savior of the world, and the question he has just put to you is, what do you want? And you get to answer that question. Could you answer that question? Could you construct an answer to Jesus saying to you, what do you want? Now, at one level, we know the answer to this question because we've been taught it when we're very, very young. If you rub the lamp and a genie comes out and offers you a wish, you ask for more wishes. It's the way it has to work, right? Some genies are clever. They put small print in. You can't ask for more wishes. But we all know that's secretly what we'd want. And part of the reason we have to ask for more wishes is because we don't know what we want. And we kind of feel that if we ask, what if it's wrong? What if I change my mind? Because I can change my mind. I don't know about you, but I can change my mind. I'd like to think that my wants were pretty much set. I'd like to believe that it's what psychologists call a kind of end of history illusion, that who I am right now, this is who I would really like to be, despite the fact that who I am today is very different from who I was yesterday. You can prove this to yourself, by the way, with this very simple psychological experiment. Go to your wardrobe and just look at the last 10 years of your history. You went out in public like that, which suggests that you've changed, which suggests that things have changed. And yet, bizarrely, despite knowing this, when we go to the store and try on a new pair of shoes, I noticed a question in the survey a few minutes ago, how much do the staff spend on shoes? I don't know the answers to that, but we don't use church funds. I just want to clarify that. But when you go to the store and you try on your shoes, how many of you actually think, yeah, I'm going to regret this in 2 years' time? These are going to gather dust in the bottom of my wardrobe a couple of years from now. How many of us think in 10 years my kids are going to laugh at this photograph? But we're changing. We're on this sort of process of change. So when Jesus says, what do you want? How can I know that what I want is actually what I want? It seems to me like there's a battle for our wants. Sometimes I feel like a bit of a pawn in a game. A drive to work puts me past billboards. It throws me through radio channels. I have phones sending me emails. I have systems that play all the time. Whenever I switch on a device, stare at a screen, or drive down the street, something is telling me what I should want. You should want this. You should want that. You should be like this. You should desire this particular thing. To be truthful, I relate to James and John. What do I want, Jesus? I want it all. I want to be at the top. I want to be the person that everybody sees. I want to be the person that has all the power and all the popularity and all the stuff. I want to be on your right hand, Jesus, at your moment in glory. Many of us can relate that that's the way the world draws us into this way of thinking because our wants are battled for. I'm being told what I should want on a very regular basis. Sometimes an exercise that's helpful but hard to remember is when you're about to buy a new something or sign up for the next big thing or engage in some contract that allows you to move into this new stage of success that everybody has promised you. It's sometimes worth stopping for a moment and saying, do I actually want this? Why am I buying these shoes? Why am I buying that car? Why am I going on that vacation? Is it because it's what I want, or is it because it's what I've been told I should want? Is it what I've been accustomed to seeing everybody else do, and therefore I should also do it? Have you ever noticed how when your neighbor comes in with a new something, all of a sudden that new something seems like the very something that you've been missing all this time? Well, how did I not realize until now? But now that they have it, and I have to see it every morning, I know that it will make my life better. We want to be on your right hand and your left hand, Jesus, said James and John. But I wonder then about the question, what do you want? We naturally emphasize the want. What do you want? Right? Let's talk about our wants. But I wonder if Jesus frames the question like this. What do you want? What do you want? Not what are you told to want. Not what are you expected to want. Not that strange thing that if I say what I actually want, what will everyone think about me? So let me just say what everyone assumes I'm going to want. But what do you want? Bartimaeus is with Jesus. And Jesus isn't interested in just simply the wants of life. He wants to know what Bartimaeus wants. Bartimaeus who's been brought to Jesus. Bartimaeus who has cried out to Jesus. I was thinking when Adam was praying earlier, this beautiful moment of God being present to us. And Bartimaeus realizes that Jesus is in his presence. He realizes that Jesus, the Son of David, is passing him by, and he's not going to miss that opportunity. So he cries out, "Have mercy on me." Everybody's like, "Be quiet. You're not socially acceptable to us, Bartimaeus." Jesus is about to head to Jerusalem. It's a 29-kilometer hike that heads up 1,000 meters. This is tough. He's trying to get going. Jesus doesn't want to stop to deal with someone like you. Bartimaeus, however, and this is a lesson for all of us, isn't put off. Sometimes you just got to hold on and be committed. Bartimaeus says again, "Son of David, have mercy on me." But he says it louder this time, because sometimes when you really want something, you just gotta shout a little bit louder. And Jesus hears him and says, "Call him." And all of a sudden the people change their minds. "Oh, yeah, we're totally with Bartimaeus. We really want to get you across here to Jesus." Bartimaeus, superb. We didn't hear you properly the first time. Sorry about that. But now we've got you. And they bring Bartimaeus to Jesus, and Jesus wants to know about him. What do you want, Bartimaeus? Sometimes I think when we answer the question, what do you want, we're driven by all sorts of different things. A particular name beneath our name on a business card, which would suggest that our performance, the things that we do, have reached a particular level. That business card that says you do the type of thing that when you hand somebody that business card, their eyebrows raise and they go, "Wow, you're important." They don't really think you're important. They just realize that your title suggests that you are important. And some of us love that, and that's what we want. Or perhaps it's your popularity. We talk a lot about popularity now with, Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and if you're old like me, Facebook. And we talk a lot about what goes on there and how many friends do you have and how many followers, because that number suggests popularity. And it's easy to pick on people that are into social media and say, you're so searching for fame and popularity. But that's not a new thing. It's just a new medium. There's been mediums around for years where we judge our popularity. Or what about our possessions? We just love stuff. And if you've got the right stuff at the right time in the right place, that might suggest that you're achieving something in life that gives you a particular thing. What do you want? So often performance or popularity or possessions are the answers that we give to that. But is that really what it's all about? And Bartimaeus says, "I want to see." I want to see. Bartimaeus is the true disciple of Jesus in this story. Two disciples of Jesus, the sons of Zebedee. I want fame, Jesus. I want performance and popularity and possessions. I want all of that stuff. You can be so close to Jesus and ask all the wrong questions, ask for all the wrong things. And Bartimaeus says, "I want to see." And Jesus says, "Go, your faith has made you well." Some translations, your faith has saved you. Your faith has healed you. And immediately he regains his sight. And what does he do? He follows Jesus. It's hard not to see Mark, the storyteller, layering levels for us on here. On one level, there's a story of a man with a disability who wants to see. But don't miss the fact that once he can see, his decision is now to follow Jesus in the way. His decision is now to go the way of Jesus, to walk in the way of Jesus, to be a follower of Jesus. So we read this story years later, and perhaps the same question is true. All of my wants might spill out. I want more wishes, Jesus. I want more stuff, Jesus. I want better success, Jesus. I want more friends and status and popularity, Jesus. But all of these things will always leave you feeling like you've just not got enough. Or we can answer the question the way that Mark wants us to answer the question. Jesus, I want to see so that I can follow you. There's something profound about Jesus' question. What do you want? Because the question's an opportunity to grow. The question's an opportunity for us to be formed. When people ask questions, if all we do is provide answers, what we really give them is just information. And sometimes that's almost how we treat Jesus. I have come so that you might be smarter than all other people. Jesus didn't do that. He came to offer his disciples life. He came to offer them a way of following in a new kingdom that put all things together differently. It wasn't just about information, it was about formation. If you can see Bartimaeus, then you can follow me. What do you want? It's the first question of discipleship. It's actually the last question of discipleship. In fact, it's the foundational question of discipleship. It's possibly the only question that matters. What's actually going on inside me? When Jesus says, "What do you want?" What do I answer? Now, I get the fact that if we answer that question in public, that puts some pressure off us. But if it's just you and Jesus, if it's just you in your devotional space, you in some private place in your home or in your car, and you answer that question, what do I want? Do you like the answer that you get? Are you happy with your answer to that question? Are you pleased with what you would say? If there were no onlookers, if nobody was taking notes, if nobody was grading you on your answer, and you answered the question to Jesus, this is what I want. Right now, at this point in your history, are you happy with the answer you'd give? And to me, that's the discipleship question. I want to see, says Bartimaeus, not just so I can see, because he's a beggar begging by the side of the road. Notice that when Bartimaeus sees, he leaves that life. He's no longer a beggar who can see. He leaves his cloak, and now he follows Jesus. So the right question to Jesus absolutely transforms his life. What do you want, says Jesus. What do you want me to do for you? Your answer to that question probably is the very core of your identity. If we can answer that question honestly, it will say everything there is to know about ourselves. But for me, I don't know about you, it's very easy to live with these superficial ones and to think that I know the answer to that question because I'm constantly being told what to want. But here, Jesus gives Bartimaeus an option to answer the question properly. So I want to ask you two things. I'd love you to stand so I can pray for you. But before I pray for you, let me just simply ask this. If you could take some time this week, carve out a few minutes somewhere, carve out a space in your calendar, a moment in a morning or a time just before you eat, and ask yourself this. If Jesus was here and asked you that question, what do you want? What do you want? Take some time to reflect on what your answer would be. Take some time to reflect on what your answer says about you. Take some time to reflect and say, am I happy with my answer to that question? And then perhaps the question that Bartimaeus leaves for all of us is, and does your answer to that question help you in the way of following Jesus? Does it draw you on the journey towards him? Or perhaps is there some work to do in our own space, in our own journey of saying, maybe there's still some way for me to go in trying to figure out who it is that I am in this following of Jesus. Let me pray for you. Jesus, we love that you are near in our space. We love that you are so thankful that you walk by us. And when we cry out, you can hear us. When we cry out, you can help us. When we cry out, you come near to us. But Jesus, also we realize that when you do come near to us, you come with a question that goes right to the deep of our identity and our being. It says, what do we want? And so as we journey this week Jesus, that you would be with us, that you would stir something up inside of us. Help us to ask the questions about our wants and our desires, not that are superficial, not that are governed by others, but what is it that you have put inside our hearts that we are yearning and longing for, and that we would love for you to do for us. We ask it in your precious name. Amen and amen. May God's grace and peace be with you this week. Thank you.